Camille enters the restaurant, her steps measured as she crosses the threshold into a world of hushed conversation and polished surfaces. The lighting is soft, casting gentle shadows across the room, but there's a chill in the air that has nothing to do with the temperature. The hostess greets her with a smile that feels rehearsed, her eyes flicking past Camille as if searching for someone else. Without asking for her preference, the hostess leads Camille to a small table by the window, away from the clusters of laughter and the warmth of the main dining area. Camille notices the empty tables in the center of the room, reserved for guests, who seem to matter more. She sits down, her back straight, her gaze calm but alert. The menu is placed in front of her with a quick gesture, and the hostess disappears before Camille can thank her. Around her, the staff move with purpose, but none make eye contact or offer a greeting. A waiter brings bread to a nearby table, his tone friendly and familiar, but he passes Camille without a glance. Her water glass sits empty, untouched, while condensation gathers at its base. Camille quietly opens her notebook, pen poised, recording each detail. The exclusion is quiet but unmistakable, a pattern of being passed over, of being present but not acknowledged. She feels the weight of glances from other diners, some curious, others uneasy, but no one speaks. The piano in the corner plays a gentle tune, its notes floating above the tension that hangs at her table. Camille's expression remains composed, her silence a shield against the subtle rejection. She waits, her patience steady, knowing this is only the beginning of a long evening. The room settles into a heavy pause, every small gesture reinforcing the message that she is not truly welcome here. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Jessica approaches Camille's table with a briskness that borders on impatience, her steps quick and her eyes fixed just above Camille's head, never meeting her gaze. She offers a clipped greeting, her voice flat and practiced, as if reciting lines she's repeated too many times. "Are you ready to order?" she asks, already glancing over her shoulder at a group of regulars who beckon her with a wave and a joke. Camille responds with quiet clarity, requesting the chef's special and a glass of sparkling water. Jessica scribbles the order with a tight grip on her notepad, barely pausing before she turns away, her attention clearly elsewhere. As Jessica moves through the room, her demeanor shifts for other tables. She laughs with a couple celebrating an anniversary, leans in to share a recommendation with a group of friends, and lingers to refill water glasses, her smile genuine and her tone warm. Camille, meanwhile, sits with an empty glass, the condensation slowly evaporating as the minutes stretch on. Bread baskets and appetizers land on neighboring tables, but none come her way. The difference in treatment is not loud or confrontational. It is found in the small repeated acts of being passed over, of being treated as an afterthought. A couple at the next table glance at Camille, their eyes briefly meeting hers before they look away, uncomfortable but silent. Jessica returns once, dropping off a napkin without a word, her focus still on the laughter across the room. Camille's patience does not waver. She sits upright, her pen moving quietly as she notes each detail. Every small slight builds a quiet barrier between her and the hospitality that flows so easily to others. The imbalance grows more obvious with each passing moment, a silent reminder of who is valued and who is not. Camille's calm presence stands in quiet contrast to the exclusion that surrounds her. Camille sits quietly, her hands resting on the linen as the evening unfolds around her. She watches Jessica laugh with a table of regulars, her voice rising above the gentle hum of conversation. When Camille raises her hand to ask for water, Jessica glances her way, then turns to help another guest, pretending not to notice. The manager strolls by, stopping to shake hands with a businessman at the next table, his back to Camille the entire time. Camille's request for bread is met with a nod from a passing server, but nothing arrives. She notes the way her questions are answered with curt replies, while others receive stories and recommendations. The busboy approaches, his steps hesitant, and quickly clears a nearby table without making eye contact, his shoulders tense. A woman at the bar looks over, her brows knitting together for a moment before she returns to her drink. Camille's meal arrives late and lukewarm, set down with a quick, distracted motion. No apology is offered. She quietly writes in her notebook, recording the sequence of being overlooked, of her needs dismissed as unimportant. The pattern is clear. Every gesture, every omission, every averted glance forms a chain of small wounds that sting more for their subtlety. Camille's patience is steady, but inside she feels the weight of each slight, the way they pile up and press down. The room is alive with warmth and connection, but at her table there is only a growing sense of separation. She meets Jessica's eyes once, just for a second, and sees nothing but indifference. Camille's resolve hardens. She will not let these moments pass unmarked. The evening is not yet over, and she is determined to remember everything. Camille sits upright, her notebook open, pen poised but unmoving as the restaurant's gentle commotion swirls around her. Jessica approaches, her steps brisk and her gaze carefully averted as if Camille's presence is an inconvenience she'd rather avoid. Jessica stops just short of the table, her voice clipped and impatient. "Your order will be out soon." Camille's eyes remain steady, calm but unyielding, her expression betraying nothing. She waits a moment, then speaks, her tone soft but edged with quiet authority. "It's been quite some time. I placed my order nearly half an hour ago." Jessica's lips tighten, a flicker of irritation crossing her face before she forces a smile that never reaches her eyes. "We're busy. Tonight." "Some orders take longer," she responds, her words carrying a dismissive undertone. Camille nods, her voice even, but her words are deliberate. "I understand, but I'm sure you can appreciate the importance of timely service." Jessica shifts her weight, glancing around the room as if searching for an escape. Her voice drops, edged with something unspoken. "Maybe you're expecting too much." The words hang between them, heavy and sharp. Camille's eyes narrow just slightly, but she remains composed, her silence more powerful than any raised voice. Around them, a few diners pause, sensing the tension but unsure whether to intervene. A man at a nearby table coughs, his discomfort evident while a woman looks away, her fingers twisting her napkin. Camille's pen moves again, capturing the moment with calm precision. Under her breath she murmurs, "Every slight counts." Jessica turns abruptly, retreating to the kitchen, her shoulders tense. The energy in the room shifts, the quiet strength of Camille's restraint settling over the space. The scene closes on Camille's steady hands, her notebook filling with the truth of the evening, a testament to dignity in the face of disregard. Jessica stands near the entrance, arms crossed, a tight smile barely masking her frustration. She watches Camille, who remains composed, her eyes calm but sharp. Jessica's lips curl into a sneer as she mutters under her breath, "Maybe she should find somewhere else to eat." Camille looks up from her notebook, meeting Jessica's gaze with a steady calm that unsettles the waitress. She doesn't respond, letting the quiet between them stretch like a taut wire. The restaurant hums with subdued chatter, but the air around their table feels charged, heavy with unspoken tension. Nearby, a server hesitates, glancing nervously at Jessica before quickly moving away. A couple at the bar exchange worried looks, their voices dropping to hushed whispers. Jessica's fingers tap a restless rhythm on the menu, her eyes flickering. To the kitchen door where the chef stands, arms folded, watching the scene unfold. The chef's jaw tightens, a silent acknowledgement of the growing storm. Camille pulls out her phone, fingers steady as she begins typing notes. Her expression is unreadable, but her eyes flash with quiet determination. She pauses, then smiles, a small knowing curve of her lips that hints at the reckoning to come. Jessica scoffs, rolling her eyes as she turns away, unaware that her dismissive gesture has only fueled the fire. The camera lingers on Camille's poised figure, the glow of the phone screen illuminating her face in the dim light. The scene closes with the soft click of Camille's phone, a sound that echoes like a starting gun, signaling the beginning of a reckoning that will ripple far beyond the walls of the restaurant. Flashbacks flicker across Camille's mind as she sits in the restaurant's shadowed corner. She remembers the luxury hotel lobby where her greeting was met with a blank stare, the boutique where prices mysteriously doubled when she stepped inside, the editorial meetings where her insights were brushed aside with a single dismissive gesture. Each memory sharpens her resolve, a quiet fire burning beneath her calm exterior. Her notebook lies open, its pages filled with observations and past reviews that have unsettled more than one establishment. She recalls the sting of being passed over, the subtle changes in tone when she dared to speak up, the cold shoulders that followed her insistence on truth. These moments have forged her strength, teaching her the value of patience, the necessity of precision. Tonight, every slight and every dismissal echo softly, fueling her determination to document the bias woven into the fabric of this place. Her pen moves steadily, each word carrying the weight of battles fought and lessons learned. The past is not a burden, it is a silent companion, guiding her hand and steadying her heart. Camille's resolve is more than personal. It is a commitment to every person who has ever been quietly set aside, every story that was never told. The restaurant's soft lighting, the muted laughter, the careful avoidance of her presence, all of it becomes part of a larger pattern she knows too well. She breathes deeply, her focus unwavering. This is more than a review, it is a reckoning. Each observation is a testament to resilience, a record of injustice that will not remain hidden. Camille's history is not forgotten. It is the force that steadies her, reminding her that dignity can be its own quiet form of defiance. Miguel moves through the dining room with careful steps, balancing a tray piled with empty glasses. His eyes flicker toward Camille's table, catching the way her water glass sits untouched, the way Jessica avoids her. He hesitates, glancing at the head server, then quietly approaches. Setting a fresh glass of water in front of Camille, he leans in just enough for her to hear, his voice barely more than a breath. "Is there anything else you need?" Camille looks up, surprised by the gentle concern in his eyes. She shakes her head, offering a soft thank you. Miguel lingers for a heartbeat longer, his gaze darting to Jessica, who is busy joking with another table. He lowers his voice further, almost afraid of being overheard. "She does this a lot," he says, his words edged with regret. Camille's expression shifts, a flicker of gratitude passing between them. Miguel straightens, his hands trembling as he gathers the empty plates from a nearby table. His movements are quick, almost anxious, but he gives Camille a small, reassuring nod before slipping away. Across the room, another server watches the exchange, her lips pressed in a thin line, but she says nothing. Camille's pen moves across. The page. Recording. The moment. The quiet act of solidarity standing out against the backdrop of neglect. For a brief moment, the weight pressing down on her feels lighter, eased by the simple kindness of someone who understands. Miguel disappears. Into the kitchen, his shoulders tense, but his small act has shifted something in the air. Camille sits a little taller, her resolve strengthened by the knowledge that even in a room full of indifference, one person's courage can make all the difference. The manager glides through the restaurant, his presence marked by a practiced smile and an easy laugh that carries above the low hum of conversation. He stops at a table of regulars, shaking hands and leaning in as if their stories are the highlight of his night. Camille sits a few tables away, her posture straight, her hand raised in a quiet attempt to get his attention. He glances her way for a fleeting moment, but his eyes slide past her as if she is simply another chair in the room. Instead, he pours a glass of wine for a familiar guest, the gesture smooth and attentive, his words warm and personal. Jessica passes by, catching the manager's eye, and they share a knowing look. A brief silent exchange that says Camille's table can wait. Camille lowers her hand, her face calm but her jaw clenched. She observes as the manager continues his rounds, his laughter growing louder as he moves from table to table, never once pausing near her. A young server hesitates by Camille's table, tray in hand, her gaze flickering between Camille and the manager. She seems to consider stepping in, but a subtle shake of the manager's head sends her on her way. The exclusion is not loud or dramatic. It is woven into the fabric of the evening, a series of choices that leave Camille on the periphery. Across the room, a hostess fidgets with the reservation book, her eyes darting toward Camille, but she remains silent, caught between what she witnesses and what she is allowed to acknowledge. Camille writes a single, deliberate line in her notebook, capturing the moment with quiet precision. The manager's laughter fades into the background, replaced by the steady rhythm of plates and glasses. Camille's presence remains unshaken, her resolve deepening with every act of disregard. She sits taller, her dignity intact, a silent challenge to the hierarchy that has chosen to overlook her, determined to record every detail for those who will one day read her account and understand what it truly means to be unseen. As Camille quietly sips her now warm water, she notices a folded napkin tucked just beneath her plate, its edges creased and stained with a faint ring of coffee. She glances around the room, searching for a clue to its origin, but the staff move with studied indifference, their faces carefully blank. She slides the napkin into her lap, unfolding it with steady hands. The handwriting is small and hurried, the ink slightly smudged. "You're not the first. Stay strong." Camille's breath catches for a moment, the words landing heavier than any insult or omission she's endured tonight. She looks up, scanning the restaurant for a sign of the note's author, but no one meets her gaze. The busboy moves quickly, past her table, his eyes fixed on the floor, while the young server who hesitated earlier now stands at the bar, nervously twisting a strand of hair. Camille's fingers trace the message, her mind racing through the possibilities. Was it Miguel, the busboy who offered her water with a whisper of understanding? Or the hostess, whose anxious glances lingered just a bit too long? The note is a lifeline, a quiet acknowledgement that the injustice she feels is real, that she is not alone in seeing it. She folds the napkin carefully, tucking it into her purse beside her notebook, the paper's weight a reminder of the silent battles fought by others before her. Across the room, Jessica laughs with a table of regulars, her voice loud and bright, oblivious to the small act of rebellion that has just taken place. Camille's resolve hardens, her purpose sharpened by the knowledge that her story is part of something larger. The restaurant's routine resumes, but the atmosphere has shifted, a ripple of quiet resistance moving just beneath the surface. Camille sits a little taller, her dignity bolstered by the anonymous courage that found its way to her table. A white couple seated 2 tables away lean in close, their voices low but not quite hidden by the gentle clatter of cutlery and the hum of conversation. The man glances at Camille, then back at his partner, his tone casual but edged with curiosity. "She's probably a critic," he mutters, watching as Camille quietly writes in her notebook. His partner's eyes flick to Camille, then to Jessica, who is laughing with another table, her attention nowhere near Camille's corner. "They should be careful," she replies, her words laced with a kind of detached concern, as if the possibility of consequence is more interesting than the reality of exclusion. The man shrugs, unconcerned, and takes a sip of his wine. Their conversation drifts, but the awareness of Camille's presence lingers between them, a subtle reminder of the divide that shapes their experience and hers. Jessica approaches their table, her demeanor shifting instantly to one of warmth and familiarity. She offers them dessert recommendations, her voice bright and engaging, her smile genuine. The couple respond in kind, their laughter mingling with hers, the ease of their interaction in stark contrast to the cold efficiency with which she serves Camille. As Jessica sets a plate of tiramisu before them, she glances over her shoulder at Camille, her expression unreadable for a split second before she returns to her cheerful routine. The couple dig into their dessert, their conversation turning to weekend plans, the moment of awareness already fading. Camille watches, her pen poised above the page, capturing the scene with quiet clarity. The privilege that shields the couple from discomfort is as real as the wall that separates her from the hospitality they receive. Camille's resolve deepens, her silence a powerful answer to the indifference that surrounds her. The restaurant continues to buzz with life, but at Camille's table, The truth is written in every small, unnoticed act. Camille sits back, her notebook closed for a moment as she reaches for her phone. The screen's glow casts a faint light over her face, reflecting the tension that has settled at her table. She angles the camera discreetly, capturing a photo of her untouched bread plate and the water glass still half empty beside it. The click is soft, but a man at the next table glances over, his eyes meeting hers for a brief, uncomfortable second before he looks away, pretending to be absorbed in the wine list. Camille's fingers move quickly, documenting the time, the state of her meal, the contrast between her table and the lively service happening just a few feet away. Jessica breezes past, her laughter trailing behind her as she delivers a birthday cake to a group near the bar, sparklers fizzing and applause erupting. Camille's table remains dim, her presence uncelebrated, her needs unmet. She snaps another photo, this time of Jessica's back as she leans in to hug a regular, her body language open and inviting. The difference in treatment is stark, the evidence mounting with each image. Camille's phone buzzes with a silent notification, a reminder from her calendar. Review due tomorrow. She smiles wryly, the irony not lost on her. Across the room, a young server catches Camille's eye, her expression apologetic, but she quickly turns away, busying herself with a tray of empty glasses. Camille uploads the photos to a private folder, her actions careful and deliberate. Every detail is preserved, every slight recorded, the digital trail growing longer. The restaurant's lights seem a little harsher now, the shadows deeper, the divide between Camille and the rest of the room more pronounced. She sets her phone down, her resolve unwavering, knowing that the truth captured in these quiet moments will speak louder than any complaint. Camille glances toward the swinging door that separates the dining room from the kitchen, catching a fleeting glimpse of the world behind the scenes. Through the narrow window, she sees a line of staff, mostly people of color, scrubbing pots and stacking plates with practiced efficiency. Their movements are quick but weary, shoulders hunched, and eyes fixed on their tasks. In stark contrast, two white servers lean against the counter, chatting and checking their phones, their laughter muffled by the clatter of dishes. A cook, his apron stained from a long shift, looks up and notices Camille watching. He meets her, gazes for a split second, then gives a subtle shake of his head, a silent message that says more than words ever could. He turns back to the grill, his jaw clenched, the rhythm of his work never faltering. Camille takes in the scene, the hierarchy as clear in the kitchen as it is in the dining room. The division is not just in service, but in opportunity, in who is allowed to pause and who must keep moving. A dishwasher glances toward the door, wiping sweat from his brow before stacking another tray. The head chef, a middle-aged man with a crisp white coat, walks by without acknowledging the kitchen staff, his attention reserved for Jessica and the front-of-house team. Camille notes the separation, the way respect and recognition flow in, only one direction. She jots down a few lines, her pen capturing the reality hidden behind polished surfaces and friendly greetings. The kitchen's secret is not chaos, but quiet resignation, a system that keeps some in the shadows while others bask in the light. Camille feels the weight of it, the truth of what she's witnessing settling heavy in her chest. She knows this, too, will become part of her story. Camille sits at her table, the glow of her phone screen illuminating her thoughtful expression as she scrolls through her photos and notes. The restaurant's atmosphere hums with the same practiced charm, but Camille's focus is elsewhere. She opens her social media app, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The words come to her easily, sharpened by the evening's steady stream of slights and dismissals. "Tonight's review will be one to remember," she types, the message simple but loaded. She attaches a single photo of her untouched plate, the timestamp clear, and hits post. The notification sound is soft, but the ripple it sends out is immediate. Within moments, likes and comments begin to appear. Followers asking questions, former patrons sharing their own experiences, a few even guessing the restaurant's name. Camille's phone vibrates with each new response, the digital storm gathering momentum. Across the room, Jessica laughs with a table of regulars, oblivious to the shift happening online. The young server who had earlier looked away now glances at Camille's phone, her curiosity piqued by the sudden flurry of activity. Camille's message is cryptic, but those who know her work recognize the warning in her words. The restaurant's logo, visible in the background of her photo, becomes a silent target. Camille watches the numbers climb, her calm exterior hiding the satisfaction she feels at finally being heard. The power dynamic in the room tilts, invisible but real, as the truth begins to spread beyond the polished walls. Camille sets her phone aside, her resolve stronger than ever. She knows the story is no longer confined to her table. It's out in the world, impossible to ignore or erase. The storm has begun, and Camille is ready for what comes next. As the evening winds down and guests begin to leave, the hostess returns to Camille's table, her steps slower than before. She avoids Camille's eyes, focusing instead on gathering the unused silverware and stacking the plates with careful precision. Her hands tremble ever so slightly, the only outward sign of the unease she tries to hide. Camille watches quietly, noticing the way the hostess's shoulders tense each time. Their gazes almost meet. The room is quieter now, the energy subdued, but the weight of the night lingers in the air. The hostess glances at the tip Camille has left, a generous amount folded neatly under the edge of the plate. She hesitates, then slides it into her apron pocket, her cheeks flushed with something between shame and gratitude. A group of servers laugh near the bar, their voices carrying across the emptying room, but the hostess does not join them. Instead, she stands by Camille's table for a moment longer, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of a napkin. She opens, her mouth as if to speak, then closes it, the words caught in her throat. Camille offers a small, understanding nod, acknowledging the silent apology that passes between them. The hostess finally looks up, her eyes meeting Camille's for just a heartbeat full of regret and something like hope. She turns away, her posture rigid as she returns to the host stand, the reservation book clutched tightly in her hand. Camille gathers her things, her movements calm and deliberate, the scene settling into a heavy pause. The hostess's small act of conscience, though wordless, lingers in the air, a flicker of guilt and humanity in a night otherwise marked by exclusion. As Camille heads for the door, the hostess watches her go, the unspoken weight of the evening settling over both of them. Camille steps out into the cool night, the restaurant's lights casting long shadows across the nearly empty parking lot. She walks toward her car, her mind racing with the details of the evening, when she hears hurried footsteps behind her. She turns to see Miguel, the busboy, clutching a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. He glances nervously over his shoulder, making sure no one from the staff is watching. "Excuse me?" he says quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to give you this." He extends the paper, his hand shaking slightly. Camille takes it, unfolding the note to find a list of dates and names, each one a quiet record of someone else who has been treated the way she was tonight. "They'll fire me if they know I talked to you," Miguel says, his eyes darting to the restaurant's back door. "But it's not right. You're not the only one. I just thought you should know." Camille's expression softens, gratitude and sadness mingling in her eyes. She nods, her voice gentle. "Thank you. This matters." Miguel shifts his weight, looking down at his worn sneakers. "I wish I could do more," he says, his words laced with regret. "You already have," Camille replies, her tone steady. The silence between them is heavy, filled with the risk and courage of the moment. Miguel gives a small, hesitant nod before turning and disappearing into the shadows, his head down. Camille stands in the parking lot for a moment longer, the note clutched tightly in her hand, the reality of the system laid bare by a single act of quiet bravery. She looks back at the restaurant, the glow from the windows now seeming colder, more distant. The truth is out, and Camille knows she is not alone. Camille sits in her car, the city's streetlights painting golden streaks across the windshield. The engine is off, but the weight of the evening hums in her chest. She opens her laptop, the glow from the screen illuminating her determined face. She begins to type, her fingers moving with careful intent. Each sentence is crafted with precision, each word chosen to reflect the reality she experienced inside the restaurant. She resists the urge to vent or accuse, instead focusing on the facts, the times she was passed over, the moments her requests were brushed aside, the difference in tone and attention given to other guests. She recalls the busboy's whisper, the hostess's flicker of guilt, the manager's laughter echoing as her needs went unmet. She includes the anonymous note, describing its shaky script and the silent solidarity it offered. Camille scrolls through the photos on her phone, attaching images that show her untouched bread, the empty water glass, the timestamp on her cold meal. She adds the list Miguel handed her in the parking lot, anonymizing the names but making clear. The pattern is not new. Her review is not angry, but unyielding. A record that cannot be dismissed as exaggeration or misunderstanding. She rewrites sentences, deleting words that sound too emotional, replacing them with phrases like consistently deferred and noticeably disparate treatment. She pauses often, reading her words aloud in a low voice, ensuring every line is fair, every detail verifiable. The city outside is quiet, but Camille's determination fills the space. She thinks of the readers who will see her review, the staff who might recognize themselves, the future guests who may be spared the same experience. She saves the document, her heart steady, her purpose clear. Tonight her words are more than a review. They are a shield and a spotlight, a way to hold the system accountable without ever raising her voice. Camille closes her laptop, her reflection in the glass, one of quiet victory, knowing the truth will soon be impossible to ignore. Camille sits alone, her plate of food now cold, untouched for too long. She picks up her fork, cutting a small piece of salmon, and chews slowly, the taste bland, her appetite dulled by the weight of the evening's events. Each bite is mechanical, a ritual more than a meal, her mind replaying every slight, every moment she was passed over, every time her presence was treated as an inconvenience. Around her, the restaurant continues its lively rhythm, servers laughing, glasses clinking, a birthday song rising from a distant table, but at Camille's corner, there is only quiet resolve. She glances at her notebook, the pages filled with observations and timestamps, a silent record of the night's injustices. She finishes her meal, not because she is hungry, but because she refuses to let the experience steal her dignity. Camille folds her napkin with care, placing it beside her empty plate. She pulls out her wallet, counting out a tip that is more than generous, a final act of grace in a place that offered her none. As she stands, Jessica approaches to clear the table, her expression unreadable. "Finally," Jessica mutters, her voice low and edged with impatience, but Camille does not react. She meets Jessica's eyes for a brief moment, her own gaze steady and unbroken, then turns and walks toward the door. The sound of her heels on the floor is a quiet declaration of self-respect. At the entrance, Camille pauses, looking back at her table, a small island of composure in a sea of indifference. She steps outside, the cool night air washing over her, and breathes deeply, letting the tension slip from her shoulders. The door closes behind her, a soft click that feels like the end of a chapter. Camille's story is not one of defeat, but of validation, her experience, her truth, recorded and ready to be shared. The empty plate, the untouched bread, the folded napkin. Each detail will become part of the account that will soon shake the walls of the very place that tried to diminish her. The night after Camille's meal, the restaurant's kitchen is alive, with its usual clatter and chatter, but beneath the surface, a current of unease runs through the staff. Camille sits at her desk at home, her laptop open, the screen filled with her meticulously crafted review. She reads it one last time, ensuring every detail is clear, every fact supported by photos and timestamps. With a steady breath, she clicks Publish. Instantly, her phone buzzes with notifications. On social media, her post spreads like wildfire. screenshots of her cold plate, the empty water glass, and the list of past incidents Miguel gave her quickly circulated, drawing attention from food critics, activists, and everyday diners alike. In the restaurant's break room, Jessica scrolls through her phone, her face draining of color as she recognizes the images and the unmistakable description of her actions. The head chef bursts through the door, holding a printout of the review, his voice sharp as he calls for the manager. "Have you seen this?" he demands, slamming the paper onto the counter. Staff gather around, reading the headline and the damning details. The owner arrives, his face red, jaw clenched as he reads the accusations of bias and neglect. "This can't be happening," he mutters, but the evidence is undeniable. The staff exchanged anxious glances, the hierarchy and routine of the kitchen suddenly upended. Regulars begin calling the front desk, asking questions and canceling reservations. Jessica tries to defend herself, but her protests are drowned out by the growing chorus of outrage online. Camille's review trends within hours, the restaurant's reputation unraveling in real time. The kitchen, once a place of routine and confidence, is now thick with tension and fear. The power has shifted. Camille's words, backed by proof and the courage of those who spoke up, have shaken the very foundation of the place that tried to silence her. The restaurant feels different in the harsh light of morning. Staff gather in uneasy clusters, their conversations hushed, eyes darting toward the office where the owner paces, review in hand. Jessica sits at a table near the kitchen, her phone buzzing with messages she refuses to check. The owner storms out, his face flushed, gripping the printed review so tightly the paper crumples at the edges. He slams it on the counter, voice trembling with anger and disbelief. "Jessica, explain this. Did you really say, 'you people,' to a guest?" The accusation hangs in the air, heavy and inescapable. Jessica's eyes widen, her voice faltering. I didn't mean it like that. She was just—" The owner cuts her off, his tone sharp and unyielding. "That's not an answer. You know what this means for us? Look at this photos, timestamps, witness statements. This isn't just a bad night, it's a pattern." Jessica's hands twist in her lap, her confidence draining away as the staff look on, some with pity, others with quiet satisfaction. The head chef leans against the doorway, arms crossed, his silence more damning than any words. The manager tries to step in, voice weak. "Maybe it's a misunderstanding." The owner snaps. "No, it's not. This is bigger than one review. This is everything we've let slide." Jessica stares at the floor, her cheeks burning, the reality of her actions settling in. The staff exchange glances, the balance of power shifting with every word. For the first time, Jessica is the one. Under scrutiny, her usual authority stripped away. The owner's voice softens, but the disappointment is clear. "You've cost us more than you know." The room is silent, the weight of consequence pressing down on everyone. Jessica's world has changed, and there is no going back. The aftermath of the owner's confrontation hangs thick in the air, leaving the staff scattered and subdued. Jessica lingers by the kitchen entrance, her shoulders slumped as colleagues move around her with deliberate distance. No one offers comfort or defense. The head chef wipes down the counter with slow, methodical strokes, his eyes never meeting hers. A dishwasher stacks plates a little too loudly, the clangs echoing through the tense quiet. Miguel, the busboy, slips into the break room, pausing just long enough to slide Camille's untouched tip into Jessica's locker, a gesture that feels more like a farewell than a kindness. The young server who once hesitated at Camille's table now avoids Jessica entirely, her gaze fixed on the floor as she passes. The manager, usually quick with instructions, says nothing, his focus narrowed to a stack of receipts he pretends to study. Jessica tries to catch someone's eye, searching for a sign of support or even a word of reassurance, but each staff member finds a reason to turn away. The camaraderie that once filled the kitchen has fractured, replaced by a heavy, unspoken judgment. Even the laughter from the dining room feels forced, as if everyone senses the shift but refuses to acknowledge it. Jessica stands alone, the reality of her isolation settling in. The staff's avoidance is not loud or dramatic. It is a series, of small, deliberate choices, a quiet withdrawal that leaves her exposed. The kitchen's usual rhythm is disrupted, the sense of teamwork replaced by wary glances and unfinished conversations. Jessica's authority has evaporated, replaced by a silence that is both punishment and protection. In this new order, her presence is tolerated but not welcomed, her past actions remembered by everyone who once called her a colleague. Camille sits at her kitchen table, the morning sun spilling over her laptop as she scrolls through a flood of messages. Among the notifications is an email from the restaurant's owner, subject line, "A public apology." She opens it, reading the carefully worded invitation. "We'd like to make things right. Would you join us for a press conference this afternoon?" Camille leans back, considering the weight of the request. She rereads the message, noting the urgency in the owner's words, the subtle plea for her presence to help salvage the restaurant's reputation. Her phone vibrates with texts from friends and colleagues, some urging her to accept, others warning her not to let them use her as a shield. Camille's fingers hover over the keyboard. She thinks of Miguel's courage, the anonymous note, the countless slights she's documented. This isn't just about her anymore. She types a brief reply, "I'll be there." The owner's response is nearly immediate, gratitude and relief evident even through the screen. As Camille prepares for the day, she chooses her outfit with care, her movements deliberate. She rehearses what she might say, determined to speak with the same calm authority she carried through the night at the restaurant. The invitation is more than a gesture, it's an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, a chance for public accountability. Camille knows the risks, knows her words will be scrutinized, but she also knows the power of truth, delivered without anger. She closes her laptop, her decision made. The press conference is set. The story that began in the shadows of exclusion will now unfold in the light, with Camille holding the microphone and the choice of how to use it. The restaurant's entrance is crowded with reporters, their cameras flashing as Camille arrives, composed and purposeful. She walks past the gathering, ignoring the shouted questions and the swirl of microphones, her focus fixed on the podium set up just inside the door. The owner stands nearby, his suit immaculate but his face drawn, hands clasped tightly in front of him. Jessica lingers at the edge of the room, her uniform wrinkled, eyes downcast, shifting her weight from foot to foot. The staff line the back wall, their faces a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Camille steps up to the microphone, her voice steady as she greets the crowd. She does not raise her voice or point fingers. Instead, she describes her experience in measured tones, recounting the facts with clarity and restraint. "This isn't about one server," she says, her words echoing in the silent room. "It's about a pattern, a culture that allows some to be treated as less." The owner nods, his jaw tight, as reporters scribble notes and snap photos. Jessica's head drops lower, her hands twisting the hem of her apron. Camille's gaze sweeps the room, meeting the eyes of staff and journalists alike, her presence commanding but never aggressive. She finishes with a call for change, her message simple but powerful. "We all deserve dignity." The room is quiet, for a moment the weight of her words settling over everyone. The owner steps forward to apologize publicly, voice trembling but sincere. Reporters fire questions, but Camille answers only what matters, refusing to be drawn into drama. Jessica flinches as a camera flash catches her face, the reality of her actions laid bare for all to see. The press conference ends not with applause, but with a heavy, thoughtful pause. Camille's calm has shifted the atmosphere, leaving the restaurant forever changed. The kitchen is cold and dimly lit, the hum of the walk-in freezer a stark contrast to the lively dining room. Jessica stumbles inside, her breath visible in the frosty air. She leans against the metal wall, knees buckling as the weight of the morning's confrontation crashes down on her. Her hands clutch her name tag, fingers trembling as tears well. Up unbidden, the cold air bites at her skin, but it is nothing compared to the chill settling in her heart. Outside, the owner's voice carries through the thin walls, announcing Jessica's termination. The words echo like a verdict, final and unforgiving. Jessica's sobs are muffled by the freezer's hum, her body curling inward as if to shield herself from the reality she cannot escape. The kitchen staff pass by, their faces a mixture of pity, relief, and silent judgment. Some avert their eyes, others exchange quiet glances, the atmosphere thick with unspoken consequences. Jessica's uniform, once crisp and proud, now hangs loosely, a symbol of her unraveling, her usual confident stride replaced by hesitant, uneven steps. The weight of isolation presses down, heavier than any workload she has carried. The freezer's coldness seeps into her bones, mirroring the frost creeping into her spirit. A young cook pauses nearby, watching her with a conflicted expression. He shifts his weight, unsure whether to offer comfort or keep his distance. The head chef stands at the doorway, arms crossed, his gaze hard but not unkind. The power dynamics have shifted. Jessica is no longer the one in control. The scene closes. On Jessica's tear-streaked face, the harsh fluorescent light casting shadows that seem to deepen her solitude. The hum of the freezer continues, a relentless reminder of the consequences of her actions and the beginning of a new, uncertain chapter. Jessica sits in her small apartment, the glow of her phone screen illuminating her anxious face as she scrolls through an endless stream of notifications. Hashtags trend at the top of every feed: boycott the bistro, dignity for all, justice served. The restaurant's name is everywhere, tagged in angry posts, flooded with negative reviews and calls for accountability. Jessica's hands tremble as she reads the comments. Some from strangers, others from people she once called friends. "I can't believe you did that. Shame on you. This is why we need change." She tries to type a response, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, but every word she writes sounds hollow, defensive, or desperate. She deletes each attempt, frustration mounting with every failed apology. Her sister messages her, the words blunt and heavy. "How could you let this happen?" Jessica's heart sinks, the isolation growing deeper with every notification. She opens her direct messages, hoping for support, but instead finds only more accusations and disappointment. The phone buzzes again, a former coworker's brief, cutting note. "You brought this on yourself." Jessica hurls the phone onto the sofa, the screen cracking as it lands, a sharp fracture mirroring the collapse of her carefully constructed world. Outside, the city moves on, but inside, Jessica is trapped in a loop of regret and anger. She paces the room, replaying every moment, every decision, searching for a way to undo what's been done. The walls feel closer, the air heavier, as the online storm rages on without mercy. She glances at her reflection in the window, seeing not the confident waitress she once was, but someone exposed, vulnerable, and irrevocably changed. The hashtags keep climbing, the outrage grows louder, and Jessica realizes there is no easy way back. Her story is now part of a public reckoning she can no longer control. The restaurant, once bustling with laughter and clinking glasses, now sits in uneasy quiet. Half the tables are empty, white linens untouched, silverware perfectly aligned but unused. The owner walks the floor, his steps slow, eyes scanning the vacant seats as if searching for an answer that won't come. He pauses at the reservation book, flipping through pages filled with crossed-out names and last-minute cancellations. The staff move with subdued energy, their conversations hushed, every gesture careful and deliberate. The hostess stands at the entrance, her smile strained as she greets the few guests who trickle in, her welcome softer than before. A family peers through the window, reading the new inclusivity pledge sign posted near the door, then turns away, their decision made in a silent exchange of glances. Miguel wipes down a table, his movements slow, the usual rhythm replaced by a heaviness that lingers in the air. The head chef leans against the kitchen door, arms folded, watching the empty dining room with a mix of frustration and resignation. Servers cluster near the bar, their laughter forced, eyes flicking nervously to the owner each time the phone rings. The sound of a single fork dropping echoes far louder than it should, drawing uneasy looks from the few diners scattered throughout the room. Camille's table remains set, fresh flowers in a vase, a futile attempt to erase the memory of the night before. The owner stops there, adjusting a napkin, his fingers lingering as if hoping to change the past with a simple gesture. The clock ticks on, each minute stretching the silence. As the evening wears on, the owner quietly flips the sign to closed. Indefinitely, the final act in a day marked by judgment not from voices raised in anger, but from the empty seats that speak louder than words ever could. A week after the storm, Camille sits at her desk, sunlight streaming through the window as she sorts through a stack of mail. Among bills and flyers, she finds a cream-colored envelope, the restaurant's name embossed in gold on the flap. She opens it carefully, pulling out a handwritten note from the owner. The words are neat, deliberate, and heavy with remorse. "We failed you, and so many others. I'm truly sorry for what happened in our dining room. Enclosed is a donation receipt. Your tip, matched tenfold, has been given to a racial equity fund in your name. I hope you find some measure of justice in this." Camille reads the letter twice, her expression unreadable, then sets it aside and examines the donation slip. The gesture is unexpected, a small but meaningful attempt at restitution. She glances at her notebook, where Miguel's list of names and dates is tucked between the pages. A silent record of every person who endured what she did. She places the envelope beside it, her desk now a quiet archive of both struggle and change. Across town, Jessica sits at a diner, filling out a job application. She hesitates at the section for references, her pen hovering over the blank space. The manager glances at her name, his eyes narrowing with recognition. "We'll call you," he says. But Jessica knows the call will never come. She folds the form, her hands unsteady, and leaves the diner in silence. Back in her apartment, Camille reflects on the journey from exclusion to acknowledgement. The envelope is not a full repair, but it is a start, a sign that the truth, once spoken, can ripple outward, forcing even the most stubborn institutions to respond. Camille files the letter away, her resolve quietly renewed. The restaurants, doors open to a new day, sunlight spilling across the freshly swept entryway. A new sign, crisp and bold, hangs above the entrance. "All are welcome." The words catch the morning light, casting a hopeful glow onto the sidewalk. Inside, the atmosphere is transformed. The walls, once lined with generic art, now display vibrant paintings from local artists, each piece celebrating diversity and unity. The staff, a blend of faces both new and familiar, move with a sense of purpose and pride. At the front, a black hostess greets guests with a genuine smile, her locks adorned with gold cuffs that shimmer as she gestures guests to their tables. Her welcome is warm, her voice carrying a quiet confidence that sets the tone for the room. The owner stands near the kitchen, watching the flow of service with a cautious optimism. He exchanges a nod with Miguel, who now works the dessert station, his movements sure and steady. The kitchen, once divided, now hums with collaboration, laughter, and encouragement, replacing the old tension. Guests of every background fill the tables, their conversations weaving together in a tapestry of new beginnings. Camille enters quietly, choosing a seat near the window. She observes the changes, her expression softening as she sees the staff's camaraderie and the genuine hospitality extended to every guest. The hostess recognizes her, offering a respectful nod, a silent acknowledgement of the journey that led to this moment. Outside, Jessica stands across the street, her new uniform ill-fitting, a takeout bag clutched in her hand. She watches the restaurant, the laughter and warmth spilling out onto the sidewalk, a world she is no longer part of. The sign above the door glows in the evening light, its message clear and unwavering. Jessica turns away, her shadow stretching behind her as she disappears into the night. The camera lingers on the sign, the words, "All are welcome," shining as a quiet promise that things can change, and that healing, though slow, is possible for a community willing to listen. Jessica sits alone at a small table in a bustling coffee shop, her posture tense, shoulders hunched as she scrolls through her cracked phone. The screen is filled with notifications, comments, angry messages, and news alerts about the restaurant's scandal. She glances up, hoping for a moment of normalcy, but the barista behind the counter avoids her gaze, choosing instead to serve the next customer in line. Jessica raises her hand, but her request for another coffee is met with a curt nod and no eye contact. A group of students at a nearby table recognize her, their conversation dropping to a whisper as they exchange glances. One of them stands, picks up her cup and moves to a table farther away, leaving Jessica in a widening circle of empty chairs. Her latte arrives, set down with a thud. The foam has already collapsed, the cup lukewarm. Jessica forces a small smile, but the barista has already turned away, busying himself with the espresso machine. She stares at the cup, the sagging foam a quiet echo of her own deflated confidence. She tries to focus on her phone, but the notifications keep coming, each one a reminder of her public downfall. Her sister's message flashes on the screen, "You need to fix this." Jessica's fingers hover over the keyboard, but she can't find the words to reply. The shop's background music is cheerful, but for Jessica, every note feels distant. The world moves on around her, customers laughing, baristas calling out names, but she sits in the middle of it all, unseen except for the judgment that follows her. She leaves a few bills on the table, no tip, and gathers her things. As she steps outside, the rain begins to fall, washing away the last traces of warmth from her face. Jessica pauses under the awning, glancing back at the coffee shop, then walks away, her isolation complete in a world that no longer looks her in the eye. The restaurant, once alive with laughter and clinking glasses, now sits in a heavy hush. Half the tables stand empty, their white linens untouched, silverware perfectly arranged but never disturbed. The owner moves slowly through the space, his footsteps echoing on the polished floor, pausing at each vacant table as if searching for a way to fill the void. He glances at the reservation book, the pages marked with cancellations and crossed-out names, a silent record of trust lost. The staff, once bustling and chatty, now work in subdued silence. The hostess at the front desk adjusts her they-them pin, her smile polite but strained as she greets the few guests who arrive, her voice softer than before. A family stops outside, peering through the window at the new Inclusivity Pledge sign posted by the door. They exchange a look and walk away, the decision made without a word. Miguel wipes down an already spotless table, his movements slow, the usual rhythm replaced by a sense of resignation. The head chef stands in the kitchen doorway, arms folded, watching the dining room with a mix of frustration and quiet acceptance. Servers cluster near the bar, their laughter forced, glancing at the owner each time the phone rings. Every sound seems amplified, the clink of a glass, the scrape of a chair, the distant hum of the air conditioner. Camille's old table is set with fresh flowers, a futile attempt to erase the memory of exclusion. The owner lingers there, straightening a napkin, his fingers lingering as if hoping to change the past with a simple gesture. As the evening drags on, he quietly flips the sign to "Closed indefinitely." The final act in a day marked by judgment not from angry voices, but from the emptiness that speaks louder than any review. The restaurant's empire has fallen, not with a crash, but with a slow, silent retreat. Camille sits at her desk, morning light streaming across stacks of notes and news clippings. As she sorts through the mail, her fingers pause on a plain, unmarked envelope. She opens it carefully, unfolding a single sheet of lined paper. The handwriting is neat but hesitant. "Your review helped me quit a job that made me hate people. Thank you for saying what so many of us felt but couldn't risk. I hope you know you changed more than just a restaurant." Camille reads the words twice, her chest tightening with a mix of relief and responsibility. She looks at the return address. There isn't one. Whoever wrote this chose to remain invisible, their courage expressed only in ink. She places the letter beside Miguel's. List of names and dates? Her desk now a quiet archive of stories, each one a testament to the ripple effect of truth. Camille thinks of the faces she's seen in kitchens and dining rooms, the staff who smiled politely but whose eyes carried exhaustion and resignation. She remembers the anonymous note slipped under her plate that night and wonders if this is the same hand, the same spirit reaching out once more. Her phone buzzes with another message, this one from a former colleague, sharing a news article about the restaurant's closure and the changes it sparked in other businesses. Camille feels the weight of what she's started, both the victories and the burdens. She tucks the letter into her notebook, a private reminder that even small acts of honesty can inspire others to choose dignity over silence. As she closes her eyes for a moment, Camille breathes in the quiet, letting the gratitude settle. The world outside moves on, but within her apartment, the anonymous letter glows with meaning, a silent thank you that lingers far longer than applause. Jessica sits in a corner booth of a small, bustling diner, a job application spread out before her. The air is thick with the scent of coffee and frying bacon, but she barely notices. Her pen hovers over the section labeled Previous Employment, her hand trembling as she tries to decide what to write. She starts to jot down server, then hesitates, erasing the word. The line for reason for leaving stares back at her, blank and accusing. She writes laid off, pauses, then scratches it out, leaving the space empty. The manager, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, glances over from behind the counter. He recognizes her name, his lips pressing into a thin line as he scans the rest of her application. Jessica looks around the diner, watching the waitstaff move with practiced ease, their laughter genuine, their teamwork effortless. She feels like an outsider, her confidence eroded by the memory of everything that happened. The manager approaches, picking up her application and skimming it quickly. "We'll call you," he says, his voice neutral but final. Jessica forces a polite smile, but she knows the truth. The paper crumples in her hand as she gathers her things, the rejection as clear as if he'd said it outright. She steps outside, the bell above the door jingling softly behind her. The street is busy, but Jessica feels invisible, her presence unnoticed by the world moving on around her. She lingers for a moment, looking back through the window at the life she can't reclaim. The job application, now creased and smudged, is a stark reminder that some mistakes are not easily forgiven. Jessica walks away, the hope for redemption slipping further from reach with each step she takes, the weight of her choices settling in for the long haul. The restaurant hums with a different energy as the doors open for lunch, sunlight streaming through spotless windows. Guests are greeted by a new face at the host stand, a young black woman with locks adorned in gold cuffs, her posture upright, and her smile genuine. She wears her name tag with quiet pride, shaking hands with the owner as he welcomes her on her first day. The handshake lingers, a silent promise of better beginnings. The staff, a blend of old and new, watch as she confidently leads guests to their tables, her voice warm and steady. Miguel, now a senior server, catches her eye and offers a nod of encouragement, his own journey reflected in her hopeful gaze. Camille sits in her car across the street, watching the scene unfold through the windshield. She sees the owner hovering near the kitchen, less authoritative and more attentive, checking in with staff and exchanging words of support. The new hostess moves through the dining room with ease, her presence a quiet statement of change. Guests of all backgrounds fill the tables, their laughter and conversation weaving together, the old tension replaced by a sense of possibility. Camille smiles, her heart lighter as she witnesses the transformation she helped spark. Inside, the new hire pauses at Camille's favorite table, smoothing the linen and adjusting the flowers. She glances out the window, catching Camille's eye for a brief moment, a silent exchange of gratitude and recognition. The owner steps back, letting the staff take the lead, his role now one of support rather than command. The restaurant feels open, inviting, and new. Camille starts her car, content to leave the moment undisturbed, knowing that hope has found a place at the table and that the future now belongs to those willing to welcome it. The neighborhood cafe is alive with the morning rush, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the chatter of regulars. Near the entrance, a community board overflows with flyers and announcements, but one new poster stands out. Dine Against Bias, Community Event. At the bistro, the bold letters catch the eye of every customer who enters. Jessica slips in quietly, her hood pulled low, hoping to blend in. She notices the flyer, her hand reaching out almost instinctively. She tears it down in a swift motion, the paper crumpling in her fist. For a moment she stands frozen, the weight of her actions and their consequences pressing down. Around her, customers glance over, some recognizing her, others simply curious about the disruption. Jessica's eyes scan the room, meeting the gaze of a young woman who gives her a small sympathetic nod. The barista behind the counter pauses, watching, but says nothing. Jessica smooths the flyer against the table, her fingers trembling, then walks back to the board and pins it up again, the corners uneven but secure. It's a small gesture, but it lingers, a reluctant acknowledgement of the movement that has grown, beyond her control. The cafe's conversation resumes, but the energy has shifted. A group of students snap a photo of the flyer, sharing it online with hashtags that have become rallying cries. Dine Against Bias. Change starts here. The owner of the bistro, reading the post from his office, feels a mix of anxiety and hope. Miguel, on his break, sees the flyer on his feed and smiles, recognizing the tide turning in his community. Jessica leaves the cafe quietly, her steps heavy, but her conscience a shade lighter. The board remains, now a symbol of collective action and the possibility of real change. The flyer flutters slightly in the breeze each time the door opens, a silent invitation for everyone to be part of something better. Camille enters the restaurant quietly, her presence unnoticed at first in the gentle bustle of lunchtime. The air feels lighter, the room filled with a warmth she hasn't known here before. The new hostess greets her with a genuine smile, leading her to a sunlit table near the window. Camille's water glass is filled promptly, the server attentive, but never hovering. The menu is handed to her with care, and for the first time, she feels truly welcomed. Miguel, now wearing a crisp uniform and a confident smile, passes by with a tray of desserts, pausing to offer a friendly nod. Camille orders the salmon, her voice steady, and the server responds with gratitude, treating her request as important. As she waits, she observes the staff working together, their interactions easy and respectful, a far cry from the tension and hierarchy that once defined the space. The owner approaches, wiping his hands on his apron, his expression earnest. "Thank you," he says quietly, the words heavy with meaning. Camille meets his gaze, offering a simple reply. The salmon is excellent. There is no need for further explanation. The mutual understanding is clear. The kitchen door swings open, revealing Miguel plating desserts, his movements sure and joyful. The staff shares a laugh, the sound genuine and unforced. Camille eats slowly, savoring each bite, the flavors vibrant and full. She glances around the dining room, seeing guests of all backgrounds enjoying their meals, the old divisions replaced by a sense of community. When she finishes, the server returns promptly, asking if she'd like anything else. Camille smiles, declining, and leaves a generous tip. As she stands to go, the staff offers a wave, their gratitude unmistakable. Stepping outside, Camille breathes deeply, the sunlight warm on her face. She knows the change here is real, rooted in respect and hard-won understanding. The restaurant behind her is no longer just a place to eat, but a place where dignity is served with every meal. Night falls, and the street outside the restaurant glows beneath the flicker of an old lamp. Jessica stands across the road, her takeout uniform hanging awkwardly on her frame, a paper bag clutched tightly in her hand. She watches as laughter and conversation spill from the bistro's open doors, the golden light inside a stark contrast to the shadows where she stands. The help wanted sign that once hung in the window is gone, replaced by the warm glow of all are welcome, the letters shining with quiet pride. Jessica shifts her weight, uncertainty etched across her face. She sees Miguel through the window, laughing with coworkers, his confidence a world away from the anxious busboy she once ignored. The new hostess greets a family at the door, her locks gleaming, her smile genuine. Camille's silhouette is visible for a moment, her posture relaxed, her presence accepted. Jessica's eyes linger on the scene, a pang of regret settling deep in her chest. She steps closer to the curb, the streetlight casting a long shadow behind her. For a moment she considers crossing, but the memory of her actions and the consequences that followed hold her back. The laughter from inside drifts out, mingling with the night air, a gentle reminder of the community she lost. Jessica looks down at her shoes, scuffed and damp from the evening rain, then back at the restaurant where healing and hope have taken root. As she turns to leave, the camera lingers on the glowing sign above the door. All are welcome, its promise unwavering. Jessica's figure fades into the darkness, her shadow stretching toward the light she can no longer reach. The final image is one of quiet reckoning, the world inside moving forward, the lesson of dignity and change illuminated beneath the harsh honesty of a streetlight.